Hello everyone and welcome back to the Watch Arts YouTube channel. I'm Hamza and I wanted to start off by thanking you for joining us in the new year. Today I'm going to be talking about 5 watches under $5,000 at retail that hold their value very well. And what I mean by that is that they trade at or around or in some cases considerably above their retail value. We thought this would be an interesting segment of watches to cover because most of the conversation around watches that trade at those sorts of multiples of their retail value tend to be at considerably higher price points. But the purpose of this video is to show that even at lower price points, there's a lot of watches to be found that do hold their value incredibly well. We'll cover watches that cost as few as a couple $100 and, sort of all the way up to $5,000. So let's get into it. I'm going to go in a roughly chronological order by year of introduction. And so the first one I'm going to talk about is a watch that was released all the way back in 2017 and is still in production. It's the Tudor Black Bay Harrods edition, reference 79230G. This is not a limited edition watch, but it is limited production. It's only available at the Harrods store in London. You have to place your order in person and you have to pick it up in person. The retail price as of early January 2023 is around $4,100. In pounds, it's $3,370. And the market price for this watch is around $4,300. The last sold listing for this watch on forums sold for $4,200, and there's currently no listings available on forums or on eBay that are listed for below $4,000. And that last sold listing was just in the middle of November. So this is a watch that, even though it's been in production now for coming up to 6 years, is still holding basically at or slightly above its retail price. And that cannot be said for every other Black Bay, certainly that has been released in subsequent years. Certainly the Black Bay 58 trades at a discount, both in its black and blue versions over its retail price. The second watch I'm going to talk about is a Grand Seiko, and it's the reference SPBG259, which is actually a quartz reference. This is a watch that was announced in 2018 and was available for about a couple years before Grand Seiko discontinued it. So it's not a limited production watch, but it is no longer available to buy at retail. Its last retail price was $3,000. And its current market price is actually also $3,000. I own a variant of this watch, which is the SPGV243. What's interesting about this particular reference is that even though it was announced as one of 3 comparable references, the 243, the 245, and then the 247, and the 247 was actually a limited edition watch, the 245 with the gray dial is the only one that currently has a market price equivalent to its retail price. The last sold listing for this watch is from early December, and that listing sold for $2,695. But if you wanted to buy one of these today, there is no current listing available on forums or on eBay for below $3,000. And just because this listing, sold for sort of slightly less than the market price doesn't mean that there weren't listings that, were just preceded a little bit in time by this one, and that sold for, more than that. But, the 243, which is the black dial and yellow secondhand version of this watch, or the 247, which is the blue dial with a red secondhand version of the same watch, have not done as well, even though they have the exact same movement, the same case, matching straps. This is the only one that's really sort of skyrocketed. And I think it's because this is the one that collectors seem to value. And so that pushes prices continually in an upward direction. So both watches I've talked about have had a market price of at least $3,000. So let's sort of step it down a level on the ladder and talk about the Seiko SPB259. This is the Prospex Alpinist Ginza 140th Anniversary Limited Edition. It was produced in 2021. It was a limited edition of only 3,500 pieces, and it had a retail price of $750. Its current market price is well north of $1,400. The last listing for this watch that sold on December 30th on a forum was for $1,300. And that by no means was the most expensive listing for this watch to sell recently. If you want to go and buy one of these, there's no listing on forums or on eBay below $1,200. And I think as soon as you see this watch and, sort of consume some of the media coverage around it, I think it's fairly evident that the dial on this watch is just so beautiful that, unlike with Grand Seiko, Seiko hit a home run on how the entire package came together that made it so desirable. And again, it's because I think that the enthusiast community in particular went gaga for this. That explains why, even though it's only $750, it trades at 2x retail. So, that's... So basically, the answer to every question in the world of watches, yet again, seems to be Seiko. It doesn't matter what the question is. And in this case, if the question is, what is a watch that trades for more than 2x retail? You might think you want to talk about a Patek or whatever, but yeah, Seiko has an answer there too. But for the next watch on the list, we're going to talk about something that's fairly obvious. And this is the Omega X Swatch Moonswatch. It was announced in 2022. It's still available. It's currently being produced. It is not a limited release, contrary to the lines that we've seen in front of Swatch stores, and is not a watch that Omega or Swatch, or the Swatch Group, I guess, have said that they want to produce in limited quantities, but they are just so in demand that they are difficult to find. And the retail price for this watch is $260, but the market price for this watch, for all of the listings that you can find on forums, on Chrono24, on eBay, seem to sit at or over retail. And depending on what the inventory available for each of its 11 variations looks like, you may be looking to pay anywhere from $260 or thereabouts, depending on condition, and whether or not box and papers are included, to several multiples of that price. And there's really no value in talking about like the last known sort of sold listing for this watch, because there's just so many of them and there's so many different variants that, and all of them seem to be in such high demand that, talking about like individual listings in this case really isn't necessary. Omega and Swatch hit a home run with this. They democratized the Speedmaster, a true icon of the world of watches, in a way that no other brand has attempted before, or had attempted before. And that alone, and sort of democratizing watch enthusiasm, I think, is, something to be applauded. And so the last watch I'm going to talk about now is going to slightly break the rules. I said I was going to talk about watches that were available at retail for under $5,000. This one has a retail price of $5,200. So it's breaking the rules technically, but I'm going to run with it because it's a very interesting watch to talk about. And this is the Breitling Superocean Heritage 57 Special Edition 2, the reference A10370-2A1C1A1. It was produced in 2020, so in the middle of the very first wave of lockdowns precipitated by COVID-19, and it was a limited edition of just 1,000 pieces. And the reason it's Special Edition 2 is because there was a black-dialed variant of the exact same layout with the rainbow indices that was limited to 200 pieces. So this is not that watch. This is the blue-dialed 1,000-piece limited edition that came later. The last listing that I could find that sold on a forum for this watch that wasn't even available on the pricey mesh bracelet option was $6,500. And if you go and try and find this exact watch in this configuration on eBay or Chrono24 or on the forums, you're not going to find any listings that are less than that. And the reason I'm not talking about the black dialed version is because that was an even more exclusive release. This one is admittedly a very sort of toned down take on a rainbow watch. And the fact that it's a limited edition and the fact that it sort of helps tell the story of how Breitling has been sort of reviving itself and its position in the market in the last few years helps explain in my mind why this watch is trading at the value that it is. So these have been 5 different watches at 5 different price points. in limited production and limited editions and in non-limited editions, relatively newer watches, relatively older watches, certainly nothing that's older than 10 years. And so these are all still presumably available on the market, but each of which at or under $5,000 has done an incredible value of retaining its retail value. And so again, if somebody ever asks you what's a watch that holds its value, the short answer can be Seiko. But if somebody wants a longer answer, then definitely send them this video. Hopefully you found this interesting and informative. Leave some comments and let us know if there are other watches that you would include in this category, and we will catch you in the next one. Thanks for listening.